All right, gang, well, $14 trillion in the hole, and the Budman has had it. It is time. It is time here and now to draw a line in the sand, and here's my bottom line. I say no to raising our nation's debt limit. And if you are a true Tea Party conservative, you should be with me on this. Are you? That's where we begin on this Monday morning, and it is apropos that we begin on this topic in the wake of that absolute stem-winder of a Tea Party at Lake Eola on Friday afternoon. More on that coming up later in this hour. Jenna and Jeff with us in the control room, and I have had about enough of the scare tactics from the Obama administration on the catastrophe that awaits if Congress fails to vote to raise our debt limit, and that is coming down the pike, and it's going to be an explosive debate and a real showdown on Capitol Hill when they return from another 2-week vacation. You know, Easter and Passover. What do we get? Like maybe 1 day off, no days off. They get 2 weeks off. Well, we're coming home to talk to the folks and all of this. Man, it is one doggone junket after another, one more vacation after another. It's incredible. I thought that was going to change. I thought in this session of Congress, we were going to have them working for the people. Doesn't seem to me. So now they're out for 2 weeks. Well, at any rate, let me begin here with something you have heard, because it has been out there and it needs to be out there. What President Obama, who's now saying you've got to raise the debt limit, the full faith and credit of the United States government is on the line. You are sowing the seeds for economic disaster that will make 2008, 2009 look like nothing if we do not increase our borrowing limit. Barack Obama in 2006, quote, "The fact that we are here today to debate raising Americans' debt limit is a sign of leadership failure. It is a sign that the U.S. government can't pay its own bills. It is a sign that we now depend on ongoing financial assistance from foreign countries to finance our government's reckless fiscal policies." That is Senator Obama. Fast forward to today, President Obama, kind of like the kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar, absolutely red-handed, had nowhere to go except to say that particular decision to vote against raising the debt limit and the comments he made were all a mistake, and it was all partisan politics. We have Harry Reid on videotape saying the same thing in 2006, and now blasting the Republicans that they are threatening the very viability of the U.S. and world economies with their commitment. Well, not unilaterally, not everybody, not unanimously, I should say. But real patriots within the Republican Party are saying no to increasing the debt limit. Others are saying, okay, but only if we get a rock-solid deal for huge spending cuts before we will vote for that. All right? I'm saying I don't care. I'm willing to go right to the brink on this thing now. I have had enough. I've had enough of the scare tactics. The scare tactics we've heard before. Off the TARP money, Henry Paulson saying in 2008, Bush's Treasury Secretary in a panic taking the microphone and saying, give me $700 billion or we will collapse overnight. Everybody got scared and we forked over $700 billion in TARP money. Happened again with the Obama stimulus plan. Got to vote on it now. You don't know what's in it, but there's no time. We're desperate. We got to have this thing passed now. So everybody folded their tent. The political opposition, the people in the country, all got scared, and bang, that deal was done. What have either one of them gained for us? And there we have it again. Treasury Secretary and tax cheat Tim Geithner on the Sunday talk shows. Here he is with David Gregory on Meet the Press. And just saying flat out, and he's so arrogant, the debt limit has to be raised.
Let me tell you how we're going to do this. Congress is going to have to raise the debt limit. They understand that. That's absolutely essential to preserve the credit worthiness of the United States of America. You know, we're a country that meets its obligations, and we have to meet our obligations, and they recognize that. In fact, I heard the leadership tell the president that again on Wednesday.
Now, Geithner wants Congress working on cuts at the same time, but if they don't get that done, he says the debt limit still has to be raised. And David Gregory comes back at him, and he says, you know, your critics say your warnings are overblown, that you're using scare tactics. And Geithner, who really never raises his voice, just raises those eyebrows of his, but you could see the steam coming out of his ears as he said this.
Those people up there who are telling people that you can take this to the brink because it gives them some leverage, they're going to own the responsibility. If you allow people to start to doubt whether the United States of America will meet its obligations, that would be catastrophic, and you can't take that risk.
The course that we are on in this country right now under the Obama regime is catastrophic and is destroying this country. We're doing everything wrong. How about we just do something right and responsible? Do what you and I would do in our families. And that's to say, oh, no, 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 no. Cut up the credit cards. No more borrowing. We start living within our means tonight. And I don't give a rip what the rest of the world does or thinks. We are putting our family fiscal house in order. Am I simple? Am I naive? Does it frighten you when the Budman says enough is enough? Yes, I want big spending cuts, but if we don't get them, I still think Congress should vote against raising the debt limit. A couple of key Republican possibilities for president happen to agree with the Budman. Where are you on that? Are you a Tea Party conservative? I submit if you are, you should be with me on this. This should be an absolute no-brainer. Where are you on raising the nation's debt limit? Are you prepared to call for Congress not to do it? I am. 407-916-5400, toll-free 1-866-916-5400. We're just getting rolling. Much more to come on this. Good morning at 6:12. Real-time traffic and weather together on the twos. And, you know, you worked hard all your life to save and accumulate your money. Now you're looking down the barrel at retirement, you or your folks, and you're wondering, what's the best way to get income from the money that I have accumulated? I mean, it gets complicated. Tax, Social Security, estate planning, investment issues, to name just a few, pretty daunting. That's why you need expertise and integrity behind you. That's why I want you to call Nelson Investment Planning Services and schedule a free, no-obligation consultation with my buddies Jack Nelson and Joel Garris. They've been at this for better than a quarter of a century, and boy, they are really experts when it comes to setting the stage for the kind of retirement you deserve, always dreamed of, and need to have. They'll get to know you personally, your financial situation. It's a 2-hour consultation for you to discuss anything you want. And when it is all over, remember this: Nelson Investment Planning Services will never do anything with your money they haven't already done with their own money. That's the bedrock principle of the firm, and they are ready to help you get income from your money in retirement. Schedule it today. Could be a real game changer. Has been for thousands. 407-629-6477. 407-629-NIPS.
Even if you're not an OnStar customer, even if you've never pushed
So I was emceeing that fabulous tea party on Friday. More coming up on that. And I pulled up to the curb down there by the Lake Eola BHL in my fabulous Fountain Acura Jet Black RL sedan. What a head turner. A lot of you came up and said, that's the one you're bragging about on the radio. That is as slick as you say, bud, man. I say you only know half the story. What a machine in every way. The finest car of its kind I have ever driven. And at Fountain Acura, along with the RL, their top-of-the-line SUV, the MDX, they have incredible financing rates right now, as low as 0.9% for well-qualified buyers like you. You've got to check it out. The RL and the MDX, 0.9% financing available down at Fountain Acura. If you're driving an Acura, you know how amazing they are. If you'd like to upgrade your current Acura model to a similar 2011 brand new Acura with no money down and a similar monthly payment, they can work it out with you down at Fountain Acura. What an opportunity. Check them out. You'll love them. Fountain Acura, South OBT, just south of the Florida Mall, and online it's fountainacura.com. How frightened are you? Have they scared you in Washington that it will be the end of life as we know it if we do not vote to raise the debt limit? Are you ready to draw a line in the sand and say, if it comes to that, we're going to take a stand for fiscal sanity and fiscal restraint for once in the history of this nation? Or have they got you scared? Have they got you scared like they had you scared with TARP? Give us the money now or we're going down. Have they got you scared like they had us scared over the Obama stimulus plan? Got to pass it now or we're going down. Is that where you are on this? You're a Tea Party conservative but saying, I don't know, bud, man, I'm not afraid of what might happen there. You know, those world markets and all that stuff Guyton is talking about. And when he raises those eyebrows, I panic. Geez, I don't know, bud, man. I think we got to raise the debt limit there. I think we just got to keep on borrowing. There's really no way out of this. And it's, you know, I'm scared, bud, man. I'm with you on the conservatism and all this, but gee whiz, man, what if we don't raise the debt limit? What happens? Worldwide depression, worse than 1932, end of life as we know it, end of our economy, end of our respect and position in the world? Gee, I don't know. Well, think about the last two times they scared us, gang. Okay? And we panicked and did their bidding. What did that get us? Did things get better because of TARP? Did things get better because of the Obamulus plan? No. I think you could argue they got worse. Man, at what point do we say enough's enough? We are done compromising. We're going to do what is right. And we will let the chips fall where they may. It's a great presentation. Jen has posted for me on Bud's blog at 540WFLA.com on this whole analogy between a family situation with a budget problem and the debt limit issue in Washington. It is an animated piece on video from the Heritage Foundation on why we shouldn't raise the debt ceiling. Among Republican candidates for president or potential candidates for president, at this point in time, I count Tim Pawlenty and Sarah Palin as saying no to raising the debt ceiling. Everybody else is walking around it, tiptoeing around it. They're scared too because they're worried that you're scared, and if they call for something that's scaring you, you're not going to support them. I support Pawlenty and I support Palin for at least being willing to take it to the wall and stand up for principle. I absolutely do. The rest of them, you're hearing talk, and even from Paul Ryan. Well, We won't vote to raise the debt limit unless we get significant spending cuts. But what if we don't get real significant spending cuts? Not this bogus baloney like we just got where $39 billion in cuts was really $352 million when the CBO analyzed it. They're going to try to do that same thing again to us. So supposing we don't get really huge, significant spending cuts, long-term commitments to it, I'm still ready to vote against the debt limit. 407-916-5400. Where are you on this, Patriots? This is tough stuff, but enough is enough. We've got to stop the insanity. This is what the Tea Party was created over. Principles of fiscal responsibility and changing our ways in Washington. And I'm done with business as usual. How about you? 407-916-5400. On the phones in 60 seconds, 622, real-time traffic and weather together on the twos. Sunny and 86 today. Beautiful day coming. Great week, too. 61 here in Orlando. Mike's in Orlando listening to the Bud Man railing on this issue of the debt limit. I am ready to say, if that's what it takes, let's draw the line in the sand now, and we will take whatever the consequences are. Mike, where do you stand?
Yeah, I as usual, totally agree with you. I'm a Tea Party person, very conservative. Gave money to Republican conservatives, campaigned, held signs, put on bumper stickers, made phone calls, and this is what we get. I don't know anybody, Bud, who's afraid if we don't raise the debt limit, but I'll tell you who needs to be afraid. It's John Boehner and company, because I will personally make sure that we have candidates to campaign for anybody who votes to raise that debt limit. This is what we work so hard for John Boehner to come out this weekend and say, well, you know, if they do this, we'll do that with the debt limit. I agree with you. Enough is enough. And if they want to play games, I'll see them in about a year and a half. And
John Boehner is fundamentally a good man. I met him at the Tax Day Tea Party here. However, he is an old-line mainstream Republican, and their day is done. And their namby-pamby approach to fiscal matters here have taken us to the brink with help from the Democrats and Obama, and he is not a guy who's ever going to pull us back from the brink. He's becoming irrelevant as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not going along with him on this.
Let me quote my favorite talk show host. Amen to that.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. I guess I say it often. To Winter Haven, Greg, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Bud. How are you?
Good, I'm fine. And what are your thoughts on this? Am I too extreme for you?
Well, I'm a Tea Party conservative, and I'm as furious as you are over this farce of this $38 billion being $352 million. That's just typical of the Washington setup right now.
And they will try to do it to us again here, Greg, on the debt limit.
I know you're right, Bud, but I tell you what, the scariest part of this thing for me is how do we know Obama, it just wouldn't suit him fine for this country to default on all of its obligations, and, he wants to turn us into a third world country anyway. I mean, what better way to do it just to have us go broke? I mean, I think we need to get it done, but I think we didn't get here overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight.
So you vote to raise the debt limit whether or not we have major spending cut commitments?
No, we got to have the major spending cuts.
What if we don't? What if it doesn't get done? Geithner says you got to raise it anyway.
No. Without a commitment to the major spending cuts, I would not vote to raise the debt ceiling. We got to have the commitment. It's going to be smoke and mirrors, but we're going to have to work through it one step at a time. I think this is I think we got to start on it, but the smoke and mirrors that we got thrown with this $38 billion, it goes back to just what Mike said. I'll see you all in a year and a half, because you're all going out the door again.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate you. Here is James in Orlando on BHL at 627. Hey, James.
Hey, Bud. I agree with you on not increasing the debt ceiling, and if it is not increased and there's a problem, the fault is at the feet of the people who spend rather than the people who are fiscally responsible.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Great point.
Alternative that no one has talked about is that the U.S. has plenty of hard assets, and just like when you get into a bankruptcy situation,
sell them off,
and don't have money, sell stuff,
lease them, sell them, whatever. I agree with that.
Anwar,
yeah,
and then all the oil leases and the gas leases, and have the government bring in money from other than tax bases and other than raising the debt ceiling. If they want to continue spending, they're going to have to sell off the national treasures.
Thank you. I hate to say it, gang, but if you're going down the pipe as a family, you take extreme measures. If your ship is going down, you throw everything overboard you can to keep it from sinking. That's what it's going to come to. The numbers are that huge. But it is time to dig in and draw the line in the sand and say, that's it with business as usual. We will take the consequences. We will do what must be done to save us, to save our country, and to save our future. More coming on this. Talk about the fabulous Friday Tea Party where I saw so many of you patriots. It was awesome. Great pictures being posted on the website. I'll be talking about that. We've got the news coming up now with the Wall Street Journal, and we are cranking. Good Monday morning, one and all at 6:28.
Traffic reports on air online brought to you by AskTheSeal.com. Many companies who claim to be licensed and insured are not. If one of those companies damages property or any injury occurs, your insurance claim may be denied. Find a company with the seal of approval on AskTheSeal.com. It's free.
Hey, boss, have you seen that TV commercial with the national alarm company? You know, the one where the home gets broken into with the mom and daughter at home? Oh, yeah, that guy's a creep. Yeah. Hey, but did you notice that instead of calling the police, the alarm company calls the lady instead? Oh, yeah. Her and daughter could have been killed while she was talking to the operator. Yeah, I know. Now, if they had Safe Touch, the two-way communicator would have let the operator hear what was going on, and they'd have called the police right away. Yeah, you know what? We're going to find out until you mention Safe Touch.
Yeah, well, you're not going to like this, boss. The latest edition of the Crooks Best newsletter said the average response time for Safe Touch monitoring is 14 seconds.
14. Oh, I hate Safe Touch.
That's right. Our Safe Touch two-way communicator saves lives and prevents property loss every day. Hi, I'm Mr. Jackson, owner of Safe Touch Security Systems. No one, and I mean no one, protect your family better than Safe Touch. So call Safe Touch today. Systems and monitoring are still less than $1 a day. Call 407-331-0335 or go to safetouch.com. State license number EF233. Love a good deal, but hate coupons? OdealsDaily.com is a much easier way to save money. A single unique deal is delivered every day right to your inbox with 50% off or more from great local merchants. Spas, restaurants, hotels, golf courses, nightclubs, and family attractions. Eat, drink, and be merry. All at big savings. If you like the deal, buy it and print your certificate instantly. If not, delete it and wait for something you do like. Sign up for OdealsDaily.com and let the savings begin. It's free and easy. New day, new deal. OdealsDaily.com. Mortgage payments too high? Fearing foreclosure? Not sure about the legalities? The Home Mortgage Law Show, presented by the law firm of Morris, DuPont, and Mansfield, PA, answers all your questions live every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on 540 WFLA. Obviously, squirrels can't tell you to get your shocks replaced so that your car stops sooner. So, squirrels everywhere have turned to spray painting stop signs to get their message out. I said squirrels everywhere. Keep your family safe. Monroe Shocks and Struts. And April 1st through May 31st, 2011, purchase four qualifying Monroe Shocks or Struts and get the price of one unit back from mail-in rebate. Restrictions apply. Promotion details available at Monroe.com. As a member of the Teamsters Union, I was injured on the job. Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to sit down with an attorney to find out my options. I'm attorney Naima with KL. I vowed when I became a lawyer to always provide free legal information to those in need of it. That's why at KL we have devoted attorneys solely to meeting with you to provide free legal information. If you've been injured on the job, call 800-NEW-LAWS or visit lawyerasap.com. KL. You have questions, we have answers. Hoffman, Inwood, and Lynn, Officer Lando. Live Johnny Brown Live continues with news from our sponsor, Orlando News Center on 540 WFLA.
It's 6:30. I'm Michelle Morello, 540 WFLA News. Transportation Secretary Ray LaMotte announcing new work rules for air traffic controllers
Morning, Mike. Good. How are you? Be ready in about 2 minutes.
The health, life, dental, and other benefits the county offers its employees will be extended to the county's care employees if the proposal is approved. Now, if it gets a yes vote, the new policy would go into effect January 1st. Looking for a job? No problem if you're a nurse.
Florida has added nearly 44,000 new jobs this year, and the unemployment rate is almost a full point lower than it was in January. But there are still more than 1 million people who cannot find work. Rebecca Rust at the Agency for Workforce Innovation says there are still a lot more people looking for jobs than jobs that are available.
We have just over 4 job seekers for every advertised job.
There are plenty of jobs if you have the right skills. Rust says there are 15,000 openings for nurses, and healthcare companies are hiring. There are also jobs in retail sales and computer technology. Rick Flag, Tallahassee.
This week we can find out if the Orlando Thrill Park takes a large step forward. The theme park would be built on I Drive near Festival Bay Mall on what's now a 70-acre wooded lot. It would have a number of thrill rides, including 15 roller coasters. Developers are hoping to get approval from the city to allow them to make some zoning changes they need for the project to proceed. 540 WFLA News Time 632. I'm Michelle Morello. Get these stories and more at 540WFLA.com. Coming up, more BHL. One of the big lots, Volkswagen Blue Road Traffic Center. Continue to see a problem-free ride so far this morning in both directions by Ford. Standard 10-minute ride between 528 and Colonial Drive. The far right is running up to speed, and we're in good shape along 528 between the I-4 and the coast. Looks like authorities have cleared up that wreck in the Claremont area along State Road 50. A little west up the turnpike at Lake Boulevard. You still might see some flashing lights on scene here, although all lanes have now been reopened. From the traffic center, I'm Debray.
Traffic on air online, a service of Apex Pest Control. So a chest bug, a weed, and a fire ant walk into a yard. They all die. Thanks to Apex Pest Control. Keep your lawn healthy. Call Apex and get $50 off annual lawn service. Expires April 24th. Restrictions apply. Visit apexpest.com. This portion of 540 WFLA is brought to you by Dr. Michael Weinstock, Sedation Dentistry. From 540 WFLA, Orlando's 24-hour weather channel, the only chance for rain this week will push in on Tuesday night. Otherwise, it's going to be hot this week. Sunshine high today, close to 90. Low to mid-90s tomorrow. Weather updated around the clock on 540 WFLA. Our favorite right, set the weather channel. We're not giving out the phone number because we like the sound of it. Allow us for our phone number go. It's pretty awesome.
6:35 any day on BHL means time for our much-awaited Wall Street Journal report with Mike Salvatorelli from the Journal. Good morning, Mike. You know, we're all getting hammered here, there, everywhere with higher prices at the gas pump and the supermarket, but it looks like we ain't seen nothing yet, as the Journal reports.
Yes, companies have been trying to hold the line on prices of their goods, but more of them have no choice, really, given continually rising commodity costs. Retailers, construction, and consumer-oriented companies are finding they must hike prices, even at the risk of undermining sales. Falling profit is the reason. There may be a limit to price increases. Major airlines have had 6 significant ones this year. However, their most recent efforts unraveled, including a bid this month to boost domestic fares between $5 and $10 each way.
And you know, the Journal is reporting on something that will be all over in the middle of this week, because Wednesday marks 1 year since the Deepwater Horizon oil rig in the Gulf caught fire and exploded, killing 11 and devastating the Gulf economy. The Journal has a very, very interesting and compelling piece on where we are 1 year later.
A year ago this week, the Gulf Coast really braced for the fallout from the Deepwater Horizon spill. Now, from the aftermath came a lot of economic pain, especially along the Louisiana coast. Tourism suffered as unemployment rose. Now, you take a snapshot a year later from the nation's worst oil disaster, jobs are increasing as the economic devastation many predicted never came to be. In fact, business is up across much of the Gulf Coast. Tourists are returning to the beaches of Florida and Alabama. Now, real estate rental companies report bookings returning to pre-spill levels. Of course, not everyone is sporting a smile. Small businesses have suffered greatly.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know it since data on their actual financial state rarely shows up.
And, you know, all the fishermen there were enlisted, a lot of them, by BP and paid handsomely, to go out and deal with the oil. I mean, they actually wound up being called spillionaires in some circles, as the Journal was affirming in this piece. And, of course, all of that money is gone now. So, you're right. It is tough still in many quarters. And, the Journal has an interesting story also on the hold that Lexus has long had in the luxury car market. It's become a little shaky recently, and even more so in the wake of the big earthquake and tsunami in Japan. Right, Mike?
Yes, absolutely. Lexus has really fallen behind its rivals. In fact, the Journal says the long reign of Toyota's high-end brand atop the U.S. luxury car market is almost certain to come to an end this year. A victim of an aging lineup and production disruptions, as you said, caused by the March 11th earthquake in Japan. But there may be another reason. Toyota is shifting its focus on Lexus here to establish the luxury brand in Japan, Europe, and China. Now, that distracted management hurt its momentum in the U.S.
Very interesting, as always. The Wall Street Journal, I call it what it is, the best newspaper in America. The online edition, check it out, too, WSJ.com. And the editor of the Wall Street Journal Radio Network is our guy on the job every morning at 6:35 with the Wall Street Journal Report. None better. Mike Salvatorelli, thanks. Have a great day, and we'll catch you tomorrow morning. Okay, coming up on 6:39 here on the BHL. Boy, I'll tell you what, we had one whale of a tea party, a tax day tea party in downtown Orlando last Friday afternoon from 4 until 6. Thousands of you patriots joined me at the Lake Eola Amphitheater, and it was fantastic. Kudos to all of the event organizers who put this thing together, and there were so many. And then they brought out the prime drivers of Tea Party cells all around Central Florida for justified praise and acknowledgement from the audience. And kudos to the event organizers, Clyde Fabretti, Barbara Seidenberg, Jason Hoyt, Lou Marin, Tom Tillison. I mean, just as good as it gets. I was so thankful to have such quality people and dedicated patriots to work with. They put together a great program, and I was so privileged to be the master of ceremonies. Now, you talk about a tea party that is bookended by your lead speaker, Marco Rubio, and your keynoter at the end, Herman Cain, with surprise visits from Joe the Plumber and from Sandy Adams, fresh from voting against that bogus budget-cutting bill in Tallahassee. It was incredible. And so many great speakers. And the heart and soul of it all was you. You showed up during a work day, on a hot day. Some of you were there from 2 o'clock on. And I'll tell you, they didn't make enough Gatorade to get me rehydrated after that was over, so I can only imagine what it was like for you. But because Herman Cain was caught on an airplane, he didn't get there till late, and you all waited. There was hardly a single person who left. And the tea party lasted until, I think, Jen, about 7:15 on my watch when it was all over. Now, you were there, and we had Nada, and we had Dan, and we had Kristen from our staff, and we have lots of pictures and videos coming in from our listeners. Where are we on posting those on the website? Because I know a lot of our patriots are going to want to check it out.
Those are up and ready to be checked out on Bud's blog at 540WFLA.com. It's also right on our front page, so you can click that, and it'll take you right there. And then also on Facebook.com, WFLA or Orlando, a lot of listeners are posting pictures that they took of you as well.
You told me you were getting Facebooked all weekend on that.
Oh, yeah. It was so cool seeing these come in, even on Friday, as people are there.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it was absolutely fantastic. Now, also on the website, we only had one heckling incident. And a guy went after, or a couple maybe, I don't know how many it was, went after Marco Rubio, and you'll be able to watch him handle that. This has kind of gone nationwide on the Internet, and Marco Rubio did a great job there. Everybody was, I thought, very, very well received, and there were terrific speakers who were not as prominent as names on everything, talk about the fair tax and other absolutely critical issues here. And it was a terrific, terrific program. And I want to thank all of you who took time out from a very busy day at a very busy time of day on a hot day to be there for your country. We'll talk more Tea Party as we continue along. Paul Ryan is becoming my hero, the conservative Republican House Budget Chairman. His bill, his budget, was voted on Friday, and we need to talk about it. It's 6:42 on BHL. Stay with me.
Otherwise, it's going to be hot this week. Sunshine, the high today close to 90. Lows to mid-90s tomorrow. Weather after weather round the clock on 540 WFLA. Operating not except the Weather Channel.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Moreno. Coming up in your 7 o'clock news, however, police looking for a pair of gunmen. Today's tax deadline day, and some protesters are unhappy about what they're paying, and Congress feeling to tackle their massive national debt issue.
Hey, you know, we all need to tighten up and save money where we can. You paying too much for your homeowner's insurance? I mean, you got outfits like State Farm out there that just got a 19% average rate hike, and others as well. Maybe you can save some serious money, your hard-earned money, with Florida Insurance Specialists going shopping over 30 A-rated companies to get you the very best deal on your homeowners, and your answer comes flying back literally in minutes. What you do is you go to the website challengemyrate.com, and you'll see one of my listeners in Sanford saved almost $500 a year on homeowners, getting switched quickly from prepared insurance to the Hartford. So what could happen for you? What could you save? Find out. Go to challengemyrate.com, challengemyrate.com. On the phone, my friends at Florida Insurance Specialists, 407-805-0200.
Traffic on air online brought to you by Subway. April is looking doubly delicious because the Subway Double Bacon, Egg, and Cheese is the next featured $5 footlong of the month. It's great for breakfast and available all day. In April, only enjoy our many $5 footlongs. Subway. Eat fresh. Mortgage rates are as low as 3%, 3.2% APR. Go to LendingTree.com today, where refinance customers save an average of $293 a month or more. Click or call 1-800-555-TREE to find out how much you can save today. That's 1-800-555-TREE. You know how I believe in God? Let's examine some overwhelming evidence that Jesus rose from the dead. If he didn't, he wasn't God. But what if he did? First, all the authorities had to do was produce Christ's body, and Christianity would have been dead. They could not. They did not. Yet the disciples lied about his resurrection. Well, they died martyrs' deaths for speaking the truth that Jesus had conquered death. Some even say the disciples stole the body and then lied about his resurrection to start a new movement. But wait, people won't die for something they know is a lie. Someone would have squealed. There's much more evidence, and I wish I had more time. But the overwhelming evidence of Jesus' resurrection is the number one reason that I believe in God. Have you examined the evidence? This is Brad Wright, speaking right to my heart.
Do you believe in God? Do you have questions but no answers? Take the time to examine the evidence. Visit rightfromtheheart.org and see if we can give you resources that will help make up your mind. That's rightfromtheheart.org.
At Saving Face Skincare and Massage, enjoy massages and facials at 40% off, just $39 for a $65 value. An exceptional price for the extra program that Saving Face always includes with massage, facials, and nails. 407-883-5518 or savingface.biz. Time now for the final round. Mike has blue eyes, Jim has brown eyes. What does Joe have?
Bronchitis?
Correct. If X marks the spot.
Why, I love my laundry.
Correct. How many TV episodes does Netflix let you watch instantly for only $8 a month?
As many as you want.
Episodes of your favorite TV shows and movies instantly for your game console or mobile device. All for only $8 a month from Netflix. See terms of use. Well, this is Small Business Insurance 101. I'm Professor Burke. Roll for displays. This is Pat's Wings, home to the famous incinerator sauce. Lots can go wrong at small restaurants like Pat's. Slippery floors, fires, cutlery juggling incidents. With our coverage, when the unexpected happens, Pat barely breaks a sweat. Unlike those eating his fire remains. Sit down with a Farmers Insurance agent to see how you can protect your small business. Find your local agent at farmers.com. We own insurance. Coverage not available in all areas. This segment of 540 WFLA is brought to you by Builder Remotely Live, Thursday nights at 7 on 540 WFLA.
You know, it did my heart good to see so many of you patriots at the Tax Day Tea Party. You know who else does my heart good? Dr. Ken Kronhaus and his staff at Lake Cardiology. As a matter of fact, they're the reason the old Budman's heart is still beating, because they pioneered the Bud Scan technology, the heart scan breakthrough, this futuristic heart scan that is so quick and easy to take that really reveals things going on inside the old ticker, yours or mine, that other tests might not catch. And if you don't have symptoms of heart trouble, you're kind of like me, and a lot of folks are that way. They don't get the chest pain warning. They don't get the shortness of breath to tip them off that something's wrong, and you got to call the heart doc. Heart disease can be a silent killer. I mean, and I could have gone lights out from a sudden heart attack if things had not been picked up by the Bud Scan. And ICACTO, the commission that sets the standard for quality care and heart CT scanning, has made Lake Cardiology, the home of Dr. K, the first and only medical facility anywhere in the area they accredit for CT scanning of the heart. This is where you want to be. This is the home of the Bud Scan. Please call and ask if the Bud Scan might be just what you need. It's got to be worth a phone call. We're talking your heart and your life here. Please call them today. 352-735-1400, 352-735-1400. You know, Paul Ryan says he doesn't want the government going into default, and I don't either. But he says we shouldn't vote to raise the debt limit unless we get major commitments to change our ways and cut down on spending and have a plan in place that will begin to dry up the sea of red ink that is completely drowning America as we have known it. Paul Ryan's a real hero of mine. He's only 41 years old. He's the most intelligent, thoughtful guy when it comes to fiscal matters that we've had in years in Congress. This guy's got presidential potential. You know, not because he's the most charismatic guy in the world. He's got Reagan's hair. But which is good. But because he is absolutely at the head of the class in the matters that really are the most critical right now. Nobody knows fiscal policy and finance like Paul Ryan does when it comes to the government situation. And even the Obama people understand that, and they really, they're very careful with him, I think, in general, even though they're kind of going after his throat over this budget plan of his. But the Paul Ryan budget that was voted on Friday and passed in the House of Representatives is the first serious plan to not nibble around the edges, but to get into the fundamental reform and change and spending cuts at the level that can make an impact and can save us from destruction. And it got passed in the House. The vote on Friday after we had left here, after our show, was 235 to 193. There were 4 Republicans who voted against it, none from Florida. No Democrat supported this measure. Oh, why not? Because it's extremist. Paul Ryan is an extremist. The Tea Partiers are extremists. Those are the Democrat talking points. Well, we're not extremists. We're mainstreamists. We are right in the mainstream current of the only approach that can save this country from going completely off the deep end into the fiscal abyss. Senator Chuck Schumer, the liberal Democrat from New York, you know, he doesn't like the proposal. He thinks it's unfair. The Ryan plan, he says it puts an end to Medicare as we know it. He says it will never pass the Senate, and it probably won't pass the Senate. But we have to put an end to Medicare as we know it, because Medicare as it is now is not viable. It is not sustainable. It has to be changed. You know, and of course they're throwing the scare tactics at us all over the place. That, you know, this is going to have grandma living under a bridge. All of his plans to redo Medicare and Medicaid, the Paul Ryan plan, are for people 55 and younger. If you're 55 or older, business as usual. You're not going to have the rug pulled out from under you, no matter what they say. But it got passed. Sad that it's going to be dead on arrival in the still Democrat-controlled United States Senate. We can take the Senate, and we can take the White House in 2012. And I think that's what it's going to take, ultimately, for this country to get serious and for a plan like Paul Ryan's to be adopted. I want to shift gears with you here in 1 minute. How do you feel about, in Florida, mandatory drug testing for those who apply for welfare and making them pay for the test? Cruel and heartless, or absolutely fair and appropriate? My take and your calls as we continue. Good morning at 6:52, checking our traffic and weather together on the Tuesday. And we're looking at sunny and 86 today, and most of the week looks pretty much the same, maybe getting a little bit warmer, but no rain forecast on into Easter Sunday. 61 degrees now here in Orlando. I thought you might find this interesting, and I think there are some important issues here. In the Florida legislature, where the session continues to grind on, a bill is making progress that, if it becomes the law of the state, would require those who apply for welfare to bear the cost of a mandatory drug test. Similar bill is already moved to the House floor. It's making progress in the Senate as well. And I hold out some hope that this will be passed, and I think it should be. Some will say, oh, Budman, you're cruel and you're heartless. I don't think so. I think we have a right, when it's we the people, the taxpayers, who are picking up the tab, to know that our hard-earned tax dollars are not getting flushed down some drug addict rat hole. That's where I am on this. The sponsor of this is Gainesville Republican Steve Ulrich in the Senate. He says, you know, it's a simple matter of asking people who are using taxpayer money to show they're not on drugs. People are getting cash and perhaps using that cash to get additional drugs. The idea here is to break the cycle that we see. If you're not on drugs, you have no problem at all. You apply for welfare, you meet the parameters, fine. We'll help you out through a tough time in your life. We'll foot the bill, we'll write the check. But if you're on drugs, I'm sorry, no. And if you want money from we the people, you've got to submit to a drug test. The drug test is $70. Who's going to pay for that? Why should we pay for that? They should pay for that. If we need to come up with easy payment plans, fine, let's do it. If $70 in one crack for somebody applying for welfare is too much, there are ways to make all of that work. But, you know, to people who say this is cruel and heartless, I say, well, wait a minute here. Wait a minute here. Police, firefighters, teachers, people who are on the public payroll, paid by the taxpayers of the state of Florida, they have to submit to drug testing. Other new employees as well of the state government. Why not those who apply for welfare? Well, the critics say, and here's one in particular, good old Evelyn Lynn, a Republican from Ormond Beach. She asks how people who test positive will obtain drug treatment with the state slashing existing treatment programs. Oh, I'm sure there'll be enough left of those programs to handle those who actually have legitimate drug problems. She questions the need for such a move, referring to a state study in 1990 to 2001 that shows only about 330 of about 8,800 of welfare applicants tested positive for drug use. That's great. Most of them not on drugs. That's terrific. That's the way it should be. All we're trying to do is catch the ones who are and saying, I'm sorry. We are not going to help fund the habit. Clean up your act. And if you clean up your act and you still need help, we will be there for you. There will be a safety net for you. So, this is where I am here on this. I'm listening to Senator Arthenia Joyner, a Tampa Democrat. who's unhappy about this legislation. Says, we're talking about people who are coming to say, I have nothing and I am coming for funds so I can feed my children, so I can house my children. Says, this is the worst time in our country since the Great Depression. Now is not the time to throw them to the wolves. Shame on us if we pass this bill. By the way, those who test positive have to wait a year before they reapply for benefits. Listen, if you aren't on drugs, you apply for welfare, your request is legitimate, no problem. All you have to do is not be on drugs and pay the $70, when I'm sure we can work out some kind of a payment plan there. Let's not let that be the deal breaker. I'm sorry. I hope this thing passes. I hope Rick Scott signs it. Here's Rich in Sanford. Good morning, Rich.
Morning, Bud. And a pleasure to speak with you again. How are you?
I'm very well, sir. How do you see this?
I'm in agreement with you at about 98%. The only issue I have is that I don't think the person who takes and passes the drug test should pay for it. Most times when you're an employee of a company, the drug screen is done by the employer at no cost to you. So if you pass the test, you should have that money reimbursed to you. Pay for it up front, pass the test, then it comes back to you because you've proven that you're clean and there's no reason for that expense.
How does that work? And I admit I don't know the answer to this. You raise an interesting issue. How does that work with other public sector employees like police, firefighters, and teachers? If they're clean, do they get the money back? Do they?
I don't believe the cost comes out of their pocket.
Well, I think it ought to be consistent here then. I think it ought to be exactly the way it is for other public sector employees, because that's essentially what we're doing here is we are paying out of public taxpayer dollars.
Absolutely.
And I'd like it to be consistent, whatever that is.
What would you think about expanding this to unemployment?
Flesh that out a little bit.
Over the top. Well, the concept of, we're paying just hundreds of millions of dollars a year out in unemployment, and it's the same concept. We're helping people who are down in the luck, and they deserve the help. They paid into the system, so on and so forth. But we want to make sure we're taking care of people who are clean and working towards a positive influence in their life, not someone who's taking advantage of the system.
So you're talking about drug testing for unemployment checks?
As well.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all.
I
don't have a problem with that. Thanks, I appreciate it. 407-916-5400. What about it? Is that cruel and heartless to institute mandatory drug testing for those applying for welfare in the state of Florida and have them pay for the test? And somebody please in the public sector tell me, if you're drug tested as a public employee and you're clean, do you still have to pay for the drug test? I'd like that issue resolved. 407-916-5400. We'll continue to talk about this. One more segment coming up. Your phone calls welcome. Lock in on the line. 407-916-5400. It's 7 o'clock. Michelle Murillo now with the latest news.
Happened in the middle of US 1 outside a hotel Saturday when two men opened fire on a group that was outside the hotel. 19-year-old Donnell Ellis was killed. 3 other teens were hit by the gunfire. Police say the SUV the suspects were driving was found 8 miles away. Now they're looking for any evidence that may help them identify the shooters. Today is your tax deadline day, and one coalition says if history is any guide, you'll be forking over your money to keep companies like General Electric from paying a dime. Rich Templeton is one of the organizers of a number of protests today and says it doesn't make any difference which political party thinks it's in charge.
I think it's just an issue of the small percentage of people in this country that currently control the bulk of the wealth that our nation has to offer and subsequently the bulk of the power have really convinced hardworking people around the country that they have their best interests at heart. And the fact is, they don't.
And he says things are about to get worse as lawmakers are preparing to impose service and other cuts as they try to address the budget shortfall. Local demonstrations will be held at the Bank of America branches on Orange Avenue and Alafaya Trail that will start at 4 this afternoon. Some very different opinions in Washington as Congress gets ready to tackle the massive national debt. Peter Ducey has more.
The House Budget Committee Chairman, Republican Paul Ryan, is not scared, and he says he doesn't think it's a good idea to just ignore the spending problem and keep borrowing more and more. So he's not going to vote for an increase unless Congress agrees to a decrease in spending.
The country's limit currently stands at $14.3 trillion. The national deficit predicted to hit that amount by mid-May. The government could resort shuttle Endeavour. The shuttle is set to lift off next Friday on a mission to the International Space Station. 540 WFLA News Time 7:02. I'm Michelle Murillo. Get these stories and more at 540WFLA.com. Sports is coming up. From the Big Moss Volkswagen Libra Traffic Center, we're saying a goodbye so far this morning in both directions of I-4. Just getting a bit busy westbound, you're 436, but still moving up to speed. Starting to see that volume pick up in the westbound direction of the 408 approaching I-4 as well. We're in good shape to both directions of 528 between I-4 and the coast. The turnpike check keeps there. It's a standard toll addressing that between State Route 50 and I-4. And there's last in your direction of the Greenway this morning. From the Traffic Center, for the Friday.
Traffic on and online, a service of the Florida Lottery. Wish you had $700,000? The new Lucky 7 raffle from the Florida Lottery may grant it to you. There are over 777 cash prizes, but do not delay. Tickets are limited and the drawing is May 5th. So acquire your Lucky 7 raffle ticket today before, poof, they're gone. Half off Newport Brady's in Waterford Lakes. ODealsDaily.com. From 540 WFLA, Orlando's 24-hour weather channel, the only chance for rain this week will push in on Tuesday night. Otherwise, it's going to be hot this week. Sunshine, the high today close to 90. Low